sorry, no. I'm going to remove the mic anyway. Just put the clip here. Just clip it on there. Yeah. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kana Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Jayom Vishnupad, Padamahansa, Padaprajak, Acharya, Asatura, Sasa Sri Shiman, ISKCON BBT Founder, Charles Divine Grace, AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Prabhupada Om Vishnupad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Nama Acharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakahosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Lachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Jamunamai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Their most beautiful lordship, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, going back to home, back to Godhead Ki Jai, ISKCON New York Yatra Ki Jai, Brihad Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, International Food for Life Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Yasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, who is the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regularly attending classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our reading from the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Creation of the Fourth Order. We're in chapter 12. Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. Today's text is 43. Yakshatra bandhur bhuvitasya dhiradham anvaru rukshad apivarsha bhogai shat panchavarsho yadaho bir alpai prasadya vaikuntamavapya tad padam. Yakshatra bandhur bhuvitasya dhirudham anvaru rukshad apivarsha bhogai Shatpanchavarsho Yadaho Biralpai Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatatpadam Yakshatra Bandhur Bhuvi Tasyadi Rudham Anvaru Rukshad Apivarsha Pugai Shatpanchavarsho Yadaho Biralpai Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatatpadam. Peace chant. Can you come closer? Why not? Because if it gets too big, then I can't read. It's just, it's too. No, I'm controlling it. Yeah, it's big enough. I think everybody can see it. If I extend the letters, all right, just for the chanting of the verse. But when it comes to read the purport and everything, it's too big, it can't be read properly. So I'll make it a little bigger just for reading the verse. Okay. Yakshatra bandhur bhavitasya dirudham anvaru rukshad apivarsha pugai Shatpanchavarsho Yadaho Biralpai Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatatpadam Yakshanja Bandhur Bhovitasyadi Rudham Anvaru Rukshad Apivarsha Pugai Shatpanchavarsho Yadaho Biralpai Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatatpadam Yakshanta Bandhur Bhavitasyadi Rudham Anvaru Rukshad Apivarsha Pugai Shatpanchavarsho Yadaho Biralpai Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatatpadam Yakshatra Bandhur Bhavitasyadi Rudham Anvava Rukshad Apivarsha Pugai Shatpanchavarsho Yadaho Biralpai Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatatpadam. Mataji. Yakshatra Bandhur Bhavitasyadi Rudham Anvava Rukshad Apivarsha Pugai Shatpanchavarsho Yadaho Biralpai Prasadya Vaikuntamavapatatpadam. Anyone else? Okay, let's go to the synonyms. Yaha, one who. Chatrabandhu, the son of a Kshatriya. Bhuvi, on the earth. Tasya, of Dhruva. Adirudham, the exalted position. Anu, after. Arurukshet can aspire to attain. Opi even. Varsha Pogai after many years. Shat Panchavarshaha 5 or 6 years old. Yat which Ahobihi Alpai after a few days. Prasadya after pleasing. Vaikuntam the Lord. Avapa attained. Tatpadam his abode. Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. Dhruva Maharaja attained an exalted position at the age of only 5 or 6 years after undergoing austerity for 6 months. Alas, a great Kshatriya cannot achieve such a position even after undergoing austerities for many, many years. Please repeat. Dhruva Maharaja attained an exalted position at the age of only 5 or 6 years after undergoing austerity for 6 months. Alas, a great Kshatriya cannot achieve such a position even after undergoing austerities for many, many years. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Dhruva Maharaja is described herein as Kshatriya Bandhuhu, which indicates that he was not fully trained as a Kshatriya because he was only 5 years old. He was not a mature Kshatriya. A Kshatriya or Brahmana has to take training. A boy born in the family of a Brahmana is not immediately a Brahmana. He has to take up the training and the purificatory process. The great sage Narada Muni was very proud of having a devotee disciple like Dhruva Maharaja. He had many other disciples, but he was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaja because in one lifetime, by dint of his severe penances and austerities, he had achieved Vaikuntha, which was never achieved by any other king's son or Rajarshi throughout the whole universe. There is the instance of the great King Bharata, who was also a great devotee, but he attained Vaikuntha Loka in 3 lives. In the first life, although he executed austerities in the forest, he became a victim of too much affection for a small deer, and in his next life, he had to take birth as a deer. Although he had a deer's body, he remembered his spiritual position, but he still had to wait until the next life for perfection. In the next life, he took birth as Jad Bharata. Of course, in that life, he was completely freed from all material entanglement, and he attained perfection and was elevated to Vaikuntha Loka. The lesson from the life of Dhruva Maharaja is that if one likes, one can attain Vaikuntha Loka in one life, without waiting for many other lives. My Guru Maharaj, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, used to say that every one of his disciples could attain Vaikuntha Loka in this life without waiting for another life to execute devotional service. One simply has to become as serious and sincere as Dhruva Maharaj. Then it is quite possible to attain Vaikuntha Loka and go back home, back to Godhead in one life. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tilamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Sharne Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Snapitang Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyahang Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishyavangsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Ragana Tanvatam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaduptam Parajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha, Gopika, Kanta, Radha, Kanta, Namosate, Tapta, Kanchana, Gorangi, Radhe, Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu, Sute Devi, Pranamami, Haripriye, Vancha, Kalpatarubhya, Shakripa, Sandubhi, Evacha, Patitanang, Pavanepyo, Vaishavepyo, Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I must admit it's a little awkward sitting in this position because my back is partially turned to the deities. I understand that Hansarupa Prabhu wanted to have on the broadcast the deities also included with the speaker. That's why this. But normally in a temple like this where Prabhupada is facing the deities, the Bhagavatam class speaker usually gives on the side. That way you can see both Prabhupada and the deities. So it's a little awkward, but I am not the ultimate authority here, so I go along with the situation. Now, speaking of Hansarupa, he was listening to my last class. He wasn't here, and he corrected me on one point, which I appreciate, because you get older, the brain synapses start to overlap, and you sometimes get things wrong. I had quoted a verse from Prabodhananda Saraswati in which he was saying that Vishwam Purna Sakayate Vidi Mahendra Sakitayate, that for the one who has gotten the merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, one of the things that happens is that, first of all, Vishwam Purna Sakayate, even though this world is a place of misery, we all know, we all experience miseries all the time, but for a devotee who has gotten Lord Chaitanya's mercy, it becomes a place of happiness. In other words, we engage in devotional service and we're happy all the time. Harinam, serving the deities, cleaning the temple, whatever we do, we're supposed to be happy. Prabhupada said once that if you're engaged in devotional activities and you're morose, something is wrong with you, not with the process. The process is perfect. Krishna is perfect, the spiritual master is perfect. At least in Prabhupada's case, we can say Prabhupada is perfect. The process of devotional service is perfect. There's Bhagavan, there's Bhakta, and the process, engagement between the two is called Bhakti. So if you're actually engaged in bhakti, you should be happy all the time. Anyway, I asked, who's Vidhi? And somebody answered, Lord Brahma, which is true. And then I asked, who's Mahendra? And nobody answered. And I said, Mahendra is Shiva. But no, Shiva is Mahadeva. So my brain sometimes got crossed. Mahadeva is Shiva. Mahendra is actually Indra. So I thank Hansarupa for that connection. Now in today's verse, an interesting statement that Prabhupada has made that requires some explanation. If we go back up in the purport here. He said that great sage Narad Muni was very proud of having a devotee disciple like Dhruva Maharaj. He had many other disciples, but he was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj because in one lifetime, by dint of his severe penances and austerities, he had achieved Vaikuntha, which was never achieved by any other king's son or Rajarshi throughout the whole universe. So that's a very strong statement. So I was thinking, well, what about the Pandavas? But the answer is that the Pandavas are eternal associates of Krishna. They were not like conditioned souls who then follow the process to become pure. And Prabhupada states that clearly. I should actually read that purport. Let me find it here. In the 4th chapter, of the Bhagavad Gita, let's find that so that there is no confusion. So chapter 4, text number 5, if I remember correctly. Yeah, in this purport, Prabhupada states clearly, the verse is, the personality of God had said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember them. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subdued enemy. So in that purport, Prabhupada says, yeah, here it is. Devotees like Arjuna are constant companions of the Lord. And whenever the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnate in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. Arjuna is one of these devotees. And in this verse, it is understood that some millions of years ago, when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, Arjuna in a different capacity was also present. So yeah, we can't dispute Prabhupada's statement based on Arjuna and the Pandavas because they were not born as conditioned souls who then became liberated to Vaikuntha. They're always associating with Krishna. Actually, one time one devotee wrote to Prabhupada and asked that you say that Arjuna is eternal associate of Krishna, and wherever Krishna goes with his pastime in the material world, Arjuna goes. And Prabhupada said yes, and then the devotee asked, so does that mean, because we know when Krishna's pastime starts here, the very next moment is starting in another universe, and that's why it's called a roadshow. It's always going on. It's not that Krishna winds up his pastime here and then he travels to another universe. No, as soon as it starts here, it starts somewhere else, and then somewhere else, and somewhere else. So the devotee was baffled. I mean, the same Arjuna is expanding, and Prabhupada said yes. Because normally we know there's a limit to how much the individual soul can expand. Normally it says that for the yogis, they can expand up to 9 times, but each form is doing the same thing. So if he's speaking in one place, then the same form, other forms are doing exactly the same thing. But in Arjuna's case, it seems that he has special dispensation, that wherever Krishna goes, he immediately appears with Krishna there, and it's mind-boggling. Achintya. That's why you have to accept the achintya concept. If we don't accept that, it is difficult to fathom these things. Just like in another conversation, this is something that was remembered by Adikeshava Prabhu, that he was with Prabhupada on a morning walk, and one devotee asked that, actually no, it was Adikeshava who asked that, Prabhupada, when we're reading the Bhagavatam, we hear about Mount Meru, it's a mountain of gold, and it's so high, and it's somewhere in the region of China, but if I flew in an airplane, would I be able to see it? And Prabhupada said, no, you don't have the eyes to see it. And then Prabhupada said, Shukadev Goswami was not an astronomer. I am not an astronomer. Prabhupada said like that. In other words, it's not that the spiritual master has to answer every single question that you dream up, and if he can't, then he's not a pure. No, it's not like that. Prabhupada said, our business is training devotees to expand the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. That is our business. And that Prabhupada showed that he was completely fit to do that. Within a short period of time, he trained up young men and women to go all over the world and open temples. And not that they went like, not to get on their case, but some of Bhaktisiddhanta's followers, he had to send money with them to London to open this and do that. No, Prabhupada just trained them how to do kirtan, how to preach from Bhagavad Gita, and they went, like those 3 couples who went to London. He gave them a little bit of training in kirtan, because he wanted them to make a very nice presentation, and we should try to do that also. Not that we are in the movement for years and we still can't play kartals properly. No, Prabhupada wanted everybody to be trained nicely. How to play kartals, how to play mridanga, at least the basic beat. So he trained them. Mukunda and Janaki, Gurudas and Yamuna, and Shamsundar and Malati. Those 3 couples were trained nicely how to do kirtan. Then they were sent to London. Not with any big stash of money. No, they had to figure it out themselves. They had to go out and do Sankirtan on the street, distribute books, collect money. And gradually, something manifests, especially after they had the good fortune by Krishna's arrangement of meeting the Beatles. So like that, Prabhupada said, this is the business of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to train up devotees how to expand the movement. And before leaving, Prabhupada said, if you can't expand, at least maintain what I've given you. So that much consciousness we should have. Whatever is here already, maintain it nicely. But we know maintenance is in the mode of goodness, which is lacking in Kali Yuga. And therefore people like to destroy. If you want to get a bunch of people to come together and knock down a building, you won't find difficulty finding people to do that, especially if you pay them nicely. And create, because everybody wants to present themselves as being creative, this idea, that idea. Sometimes the devotees get upset if they go to the managers and say, Prabhu, I have this idea, and then if they don't at least get a wow, they get upset. But that wasn't Prabhupada's mood. Not that you come up with some idea and then, wow, what a great idea. Prabhupada would say, let us see. First of all, let us see. Because he wanted us to be down to earth. Don't come up with all these pie-in-the-sky ideas and then expect that somebody's going to jump on the case and make it happen for you, which is the Kali Yuga idea. That way I get the credit for being a big thinker, and somebody else has to jump through hoops to make it happen. That's not the mood of the devotee. You see, Prabhupada systematically, step by step, with great patience, establishes movement. Going out daily, even coming here to New York and going out in the snow with inadequate clothing. Like that, the devotee is very patient, understanding that the vision is not mine. I'm trying to help my spiritual master to implement Lord Chaitanya's vision of his name being chanted in every town and village around the world. That's the prediction, that's the vision of Lord Chaitanya. And we're just trying to assist. This is our capacity, trying our best to assist. One time another devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that he was leaving with his work unfinished. And Prabhupada said, he's Vaishnava, all powerful. He could have done it all himself, but he's leaving something for us to do. So similarly, Prabhupada did the same thing. Vaishnava, all powerful. He could have done everything himself. But out of humility, he thanked his followers and disciples for helping him, and he left something for us to do. In other words, don't be lazy. Present yourself to be trained, because if you're not trained, how can you train others? So it begins by presenting ourselves humbly to be trained. If the disciple thinks he or she knows more than the spiritual master, then they're in for a rough road. You're going to be rudely awakened. And Prabhupada used the example of his own spiritual master, that on the recommendation of his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta approached Gorkiteshwar Babaji Maharaj, who was functionally illiterate, whereas Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was a great scholar. He spoke in such, English was not his first language, but he spoke in such high English that even the native English speakers, the British, who were at that time ruling India, they were baffled, they were amazed that this Indian person can speak in such highfalutin English language. The materialistic demeanor cannot possibly stretch to the transcendental autocrat who's ever inviting the fallen conditioned souls to associate him with him through devotion or eternal serving mood. Even a native English speaker has to scratch their head, what is he talking about? So he was such a powerful scholar that he could baffle even other so-called great scholars. But he humbly approached Gorkiteshwar Babaji Maharaj for initiation and indicated that if you don't initiate me, he was so serious, and again, we're not suggesting this to anybody, but he was so serious that if you don't accept me, I'm going to take my life. We're not suggesting anybody do that. And whenever you say things like that, people think, oh, you're talking about suicide. No, we don't. Suicide is not, Prabhupada used to say, suicide is illegal. And you would laugh, because if the person commits suicide, are you going to charge them? This is how we think. But no, there's universal management, and killing the body doesn't kill the soul. So you're culpable. You become culpable for taking the body prematurely. Every one of us has gotten this material body, and we should live natural life and die a natural death. That's the natural order of things. And if we ourselves interrupt even our own length of stay in this body, then we are culpable. What to speak of if we interrupt somebody else's duration of life? So Prabhupada would say, if you interrupt the duration of life of even an insect, you're culpable. There's negative reaction. And that's why Krishna says, Ahang tvang sarva papevyo mokshashyami. Because even the devotees, even in executing bhakti, we are technically culpable if you step on an ant, by breathing, by lighting fire. And therefore Krishna says, Master, don't worry, I will take the reaction. If there was no reaction, then Krishna wouldn't have to say that. He would just say, just think of me, become my devotee, and bas, that's it. No. Even if you become a devotee, there is reaction. And therefore Krishna says, Ahang tvang sarva papebhyo. I will take the reactions. Therefore, Master, you don't have to worry. So here Dhruva Maharaj, he obviously has no reactions to be worried about, and therefore he's on his way back to Vaikuntha. And Prabhupada has indicated, as mentioned here, that this can be our end of life situation also. If we take this path of Bhakti Yoga seriously, we can also go back to home, back to Godhead, in one lifetime. And Prabhupada urged us to do that. Be serious. Try to go back to home, back to Godhead in one lifetime. Don't put off till the next life. That's laziness. That's not understanding that the circumstances may not be the same. Prabhupada remind us quite often, it's not that because you took birth in America this life and you have nice facilities that you're going to have same facilities in the next life. No, there's no such guarantee. There's no such guarantee. Everybody's karmic baggage is different. And although in this lifetime we may have facilities, in the next lifetime it may not be so easy. And we've seen this all around the world, where devotees who have taken birth in other countries, or even in this country, but in other countries, especially like in China. I think I've told the story before of one devotee who was in LA for some time. You know, he's a disciple of the Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So when he started engaging in Krishna consciousness, supposedly underground, but the authorities there are very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very, very determined to root out anybody or anyone who's doing anything that's against what they accept or present as being desirable. So they were tracking the Hare Krishna movement, and that wasn't a new thing. Another devotee, when I was in Hong Kong in '91, he used to go into China as an English teacher, you know, dressed in regular clothes. So he would cross from Hong Kong, cross the border, go into mainland. But while he was there, obviously he was preaching. So one time he was doing that, he was crossing the border, and the border police said to him, "We know who you are." And he was shocked. He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "No, we know who you are. But we have a saying in China, you don't kill the pig till it gets fat. In other words, don't get too big and we won't bother you. Don't get too big." So they're always, everybody there is under surveillance. So they were watching this devotee, and they grabbed him one day, took him to the police station and said, "You know, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this Hindu Hare Krishna stuff. We want you to stop." But he refused. So they put him in jail, and he went on a fast. He said, "I can't eat anything that you people prepare here, and besides, you're not. It's illegal for you to hold me." I mean, like that. So he went on a fast, and he fasted for like a whole month, literally just water. And he was getting just about to die. They got worried that this person is going to die on our account, and they let him out. So many years later, he came to America, distributed books. Still active, actually. So we have to be serious. It's not that, again, we're going to get this kind of facility in every lifetime where you live in a nice temple and have nice association and nice prasadam every day. It's not like that. We can, if we don't get out in this lifetime, we can be placed into very difficult circumstances in the next life. How many have read that book, Salted Bread? So you understand that devotees can be put into extremely difficult situations. That devotee, you know, when it was still the Soviet Union, so all these countries were considered part of it. So this was in Armenia, in Europe, and I visited there, and I understand, because even now they're still under repression in that country. So anyway, his father was the KGB head for that sector, and he asked his son, "Don't do this. Don't get involved in this Hare Krishna stuff. In other words, you'll make me look bad. If I'm the top of the head of the KGB in this area and my own son, I can't control him, it's going to make me look bad." But he didn't care. He and his friends, they went on chanting. So the father, and that's why Prabhupada said, you don't understand how dangerous it is in the material world. Your own father, just for the sake of becoming a devotee, trying to be a devotee of Krishna, your own father will kill you, like Hiranyakashipu tried with Prahlad. So this so-called father arrested his son and his friends and put them in a psychiatric hospital where they tried their best to break them. They force-fed them eggs and gave them psychotropic drugs and like that. Really, really tried their best to break them, but they were so determined that they continued to chant. You know the story, that where the salted bread name comes from, that they would get bread, practically the only thing to eat, but he was so determined to have beads to chant that he would take his small ration of bread, he would dry it and then string it on a string and make japa beads. So we don't have to go through that trouble. If we lose our japa beads, we just go to the gift shop, or we go to India, whatever, We can buy a dozen japa beads at a time. But that facility is not guaranteed. So we should take it very seriously. In this lifetime, we have it pretty easy, most of us, pretty easy. There's no authority trying to break us, although in the early days here in America that happened also, but nowadays, no such problem. You can walk anywhere dressed as a devotee. Maybe a few people will say something silly, but for the most part, we're accepted. You can go anywhere wearing a dhoti, tilak. Or if you don't want to wear a dhoti, Prabhupada said, for preaching, yes, you can dress like a gentleman of your country, but there should always be tilak and flag. Flag means shika. So we shouldn't be too eager to give those up. You can dress in regular clothes to God, like Sankirtan devotees do when they go out distributing books. That's okay, Prabhupada approved that. But he also said there should be tilak and flag. So Dhruva Maharaj, he has reached the perfectional stage. His Guru Maharaj, Narad Muni, is very proud of him because, as Prabhupada states, no other Kshatriya in the universe was able to get out in one lifetime, even after severe austerities. And in that instance, I think he's referring to Vishwamitra Muni, who, as you know, he was a Kshatriya, but in a dispute with Vashishta Muni, he lost. Vashishta Muni was a Brahmin, a long story, but Vishwamitra Muni wanted to take away his Kamadhenu cow and wasn't able to. He and his whole army could not defeat this one sage and his cow. So he said, what's the use of being a Kshatriya? Let me become a Brahmana. So he performed severe austerities to become a Brahmana. So much so that Indra became worried that this person is accumulating so much pious credit and strength through austerity that he may take over my position. So Vishwamitra Muni was sitting in his austerities, meditating with his eyes closed, and Indra sent the Apsara Medaka. And just by hearing her tinkling ankle bells, he opened his eyes, and the rest is history. Fell down, produced a daughter, Shakuntala. So this is kind of what Prabhupada is referring to here. That even if you're a Kshatriya, you can perform severe austerities, and there are others, not just Vishwamitra, you still can't get out. It's not so easy to get out of the universe in one lifetime. But Dhruva Maharaj is doing that. He's on his way back to Godhead, and we should take it to heart that Prabhupada indicated that we can also do the same thing. And take it seriously. Try our best to make advancement in spiritual life. Try our best to go out and give others the opportunity. This is Prabhupada's movement. Please submit yourself to be trained so that you can go out and train others. If you're not trained, if you're not submissive, surrendered to your Guru Maharaj, then you cannot induce others to do that, because that's the process. Adau Guru Bhashraya. This bhakti process begins with surrendering to a spiritual master. And if we haven't done that, how can we induce others to do it? Then it's hypocrisy. So we have to always try our best to remain on the surrendered platform. Maya will always try to shake that platform to get us to do our own thing. Yeah, you've been chanting for decades now, you're an experienced preacher, you don't need to be so submissive. You can come up with your own way and do your own thing. No! There's no doing your own thing. One time when the disciple of Srila Prabhupada in India, he said to Srila Prabhupada, he was a little bit anxious. He said, Prabhupada, I noticed that, some of my godbrothers there, very friendly with you, but I don't feel so comfortable to be in that friendly mood. And Prabhupada said, that's good. He said, one should always be on one's best behavior, or try your best and remain in a humble position before your spiritual master. Because if you become too familiar with the spiritual master, Prabhupada compared it to like a bug being on the throne with the king. There's a king sitting on a throne and there's a bug on the same throne. But Prabhupada said the business of the king is to rule and the business of the bug is to bite. So although externally it may seem that somebody's on the same length, same situation with the spiritual master, it doesn't mean that they're actually equal to the spiritual master. Another time, Shrutakirti Prabhu says how he was traveling with Prabhupada and he would see that wherever he would go, they would land and all of the thousands of devotees were there. In those days, thousands of devotees could go to the airport. at a time. You can't do that nowadays. You can't get it. But in those days, 60s and 70s, hundreds of devotees would go wherever Prabhupada would come, and they would, as soon as they saw Prabhupada come out the gate, they would fall down and pay obeisances, and some of them would be crying. And so Sri Kirti noted that. He said, Prabhupada, I noticed your disciples love you so much that they cry when they see you, but I'm not feeling, I don't cry, I don't feel that I'm on a... So Prabhupada didn't answer. A little later on, Prabhupada said, so do you like to serve me? And she said, of course, Prabhupada, I like to serve you. Prabhupada said, and that is love. In other words, anybody can show some emotion and cry and roll around, but if you don't do something practical to please the spiritual master, then where is the love? So that's why we're here. We're being trained to engage in practical devotional service for the pleasure of the spiritual master, Guru and Krishna, with no ulterior motive, no desire for compensation. That is love. That is love. Even though internally we may not feel yet that we're on the platform of pure love for the spiritual master, Krishna, it is there. It's just being uncovered gradually. And the key is to please the spiritual master. Even if we don't like what the spiritual master asks us to do. Prabhupada made that point repeatedly. That Arjuna was being asked by his spiritual master, Krishna, to do something he didn't want to do. He didn't want to kill his kinsmen and his cousin brothers and his guru and his grandfather, Bhishma. He didn't want to do it. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to convince him to do it. And he did it. And therefore he's glorious. So Prabhupada made the point that sometimes the spiritual master may ask us to do things that we don't like to do, we don't really want to do. It doesn't match our psychophysical nature. But that's surrender. If everything we were asked to do is something we love to do, then there's not much surrender there. But sometimes we're asked to do things that we don't like to do. The example I like to use is, let's say you're a big Sankirtan devotee, you're having such success distributing books. But the authorities say, now we want you to stay back and manage the temple. No, I don't want to do that. I'm having too much fun out here. And Prabhupada said book distribution is the most important thing. And no. Then you're not submissive. You're not submissive. You have not submitted to the authority. Or vice versa. Let's say you're a great pujari, but now your spiritual master said, I want you to be trained to distribute books and go out every day. You have to do it. If you're actually surrendered, you have to do it. So the test will always be there. As long as we're in this world, we'll be tested, one way or the other. Tested, our advancement in Krishna consciousness will be tested. Because in our own mind, we used to have the saying back in the 60s, 70s, that somebody's a legend in their own time. Generally, you become a legend after you die. Especially in the art world. Very few artists become famous while they're still alive. After they die, then their art becomes worth millions of dollars. So, if somebody becomes very famous and wealthy in their own time, we say they're a legend in their own time. But, we used to twist it and say that this person is a legend in their own mind. In other words, you think so much of yourself, you think that you're much greater than you really are. So we should not, as devotees, become legends in our own minds, where we think that we're so great, we're doing such a great job in this way or that way. No. The devotee is always humble, always looking for approval from the spiritual master, even chastisement. Another thing that Sri Kirti mentions quite often in his memories of Prabhupada, that as he traveled, you saw how Prabhupada was very sensitive. Those devotees who could take chastisement, he would chastise them heavily because it would make them better devotees. But others were so fragile, Prabhupada knew that if I chastise this fellow, he may fall down. So he would be a little bit easier on that person. An example is one time he wanted one devotee who was a temple president in one country to move to another country to be a temple president there. So they all went on a walk. Prabhupada was visiting that area. And Prabhupada, indicated quite clearly that I would like you to take up this new service. But the devotee was resisting and didn't agree. So later on, after the session was over, one devotee said to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, why didn't you order him to do it? Prabhupada said, because if I ordered him and he refused, that would be a great offense. So Prabhupada was giving him the opportunity to surrender without being ordered. What to speak of if you are ordered and you don't do it? That's a great offense. So we have all been ordered to chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 principles, and as far as possible, engage in practical devotional service. Sometimes we are given specific service to do. So we should do it. We shouldn't overthink it. We're thinking that, well, I think I should do this, but not that, or I'm better at that than I am at this. And again, then where is the surrender? Surrender comes when you do what the spiritual master asks you to do, even if you don't like to do it. That's real surrender. And Prabhupada again shows Arjuna as a prime example of that. So Dhruva Maharaj Ki Jai is going back to Godhead, and all of us can go back to Godhead in this lifetime if we surrender. And Prabhupada said, if you just chant 16 rounds every day and follow the 4 principles, you'll go back to Godhead in this lifetime. But it's not so easy, because if we don't actually surrender, then Maya will find a way to get us to stop doing any or all of the above. As we've seen, so many devotees who made tangible advancement. Again, I keep reminding devotees that if somebody falls down, it doesn't mean they didn't make any advancement. It just means they didn't come to the perfectional stage. Just like here in this purport, it's mentioned Bharat Maharaj. He was that close to perfection. But because he had undue affection for a deer, fell down, became a deer in the next life, and then after that became Jad Bharat and went back to Godhead. So it can happen, even advanced devotees can fall down. We should remember that. We shouldn't disparage devotees if they fall down. He was a pretender anyway, and I never liked him anyway. And No, not like that. Devotees can make actual, very, very tangible advancement, but then because of some mistake, they can fall from that position. So we should be each other's well-wishers in that regard. We should pray to Krishna that I get out in this lifetime, and all the other devotees. Devotees don't want to do anything alone. Devotees are always eager to assist others. That's what pure devotees do. I've said this many times, but it's a phenomenon that I notice in our society, that sometimes devotees think they're so advanced they can't associate with other devotees anymore. They go off somewhere and, maybe you see them on Janmashtami or something like that. They're too advanced. And I remind them, no. The advanced devotees, they make devotees. A real advanced devotee like Srila Prabhupada can go somewhere like America where there are no devotees and make devotees from scratch and put up with all their nonsense to help them to advance. Like the famous example of Prabhupada in San Francisco, standing on line to go to the bathroom with the other devotees. Didn't demand, I'm the spiritual master. And the other devotees were so unconscious, Krishna unconscious, that they allowed Prabhupada to wait in line. Not that, Swamiji, as they used to call him at that time, please go. No. Or even here in New York, 26th Avenue, in the beginning, Prabhupada was cooking for these visitors, potential devotees, prospective devotees. And they would eat and then leave Prabhupada to clean up and wash the pots. Just imagine the consciousness. You go somewhere, some elderly person cooks for you, serves you, feeds you so much, and then in the end you just say, okay, thank you, and you leave. You don't even help them to clean up or wash the pots. So Prabhupada is so humble. This is a real pure devotee. They will take any opportunity to make devotees, to help devotees advance. Not that I'm so advanced I can't associate with these neophytes. All these devotees, they're all neophytes, so I have to go somewhere and set up my own bhajan kutir and stay. No, that's not real advanced devotee. Real advanced devotee will go through hell. Like Prabhupada came to hellish New York and hellish London to make devotees and help them advance. Okay, we'll stop here. Maybe there's a couple of minutes for any reflection, questions. Okay, who was first? I didn't know. I think Narad Muni Prabhu and then... Okay. Narad Muni Prabhu first and then...
Hare Krishna. Wonderful class. I have one comment and one question, if I may. Okay, the comment is, when that group of devotees, they went to London, Mother Yamuna and Mother Malati, there was a little Saraswati also was there, and then just those other male devotees, they went. They had only $600. And one couple, they were passing just through the immigration, And then they were going inside, then going towards the fence. And from the fence, in between the fence, just those iron rods. So the fence, just they were passing that very same $600. And then just the another couple, just they were coming with the very same $600. And they were showing to the immigration officer, and they were passing. And then the next, and the next, in this way, all of them, they cleared off their immigration. They went to preach in London. So devotees went through so much hassle. And they were looking for baby milk for little Saraswati, and it was not available, and she suffered also there. You see, just devotees go through so much hassle. So just I pointed out that because you mentioned about their activities in London. And question. The question is, Prabhupada has mentioned very clearly in Bhagavad Gita, one of the purports, that at the time of Pralaya, the inhabitants of Brahmaloka, they go back home, back to Godhead.
If they're qualified.
If they qualified, but that is in the case of when Brahma, nobody is qualified that position, then Brahma, the Supreme Lord himself comes as Brahma, then they all go back home, back to Godhead. That's what Prabhupada mentioned. And then another purport he has mentioned, the time of Pralaya, even the Brahmaloka, inhabitants of Brahmaloka, they not qualified to go home back to Godhead. So I'm talking about just even Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. So Mama Upetetu Konteyo Punarjanma Navidyate. Even Brahma Loka, they are not able to go home back to Godhead. So Prabhupada has mentioned giving us the Krishna consciousness, this priceless gift. Do you think just that we all will go home back to Godhead by practicing Krishna consciousness? Or there is a hope against hope?
It's the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. This is the beauty of having taken birth at this particular time. Lord Chaitanya has given special dispensation. But without his mercy, most of us, I can speak of myself, would not be qualified even to come through the front door of this temple because of engaging in so many sinful activities. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, in this Kali Yuga, if we just take to this chanting process, all of the baggage is thrown away. Now we may say, well, somebody who's made it all the way up to Tapaloka, Maharloka, they must be extremely, extremely qualified. Yes, but there's still that minute independence. If it's not fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, in other words, if I'm satisfied as being known as a great sage and a great sadhu and this and that, me. I'm not living life strictly for Krishna satisfaction. That's why it's so important to hear about the residents of Brajadam. They are not self-centered at all. They're all Krishna-centered. Everything Krishna. We can examine our own consciousness. Are we like that? 24/7, 365. Are we only concentrated on Krishna? Or am I still reserving 5%, 10%, 1% for me? Me conscious. Me first. Yes, I'm chanting and I'm serving, but I still have this desire to do this, that independently. So even when we rise up within the universe, again, all the upper planetary systems all the way up to Brahmaloka, that minute independence is still there, and it can be misused or not properly used to fully surrender to Krishna. So Krishna says, okay, then you'll come back again and given another opportunity. So we should take it seriously. Lord Chaitanya is making special dispensation for us in Kali Yuga. Just take this chanting process seriously. Chant 16 rounds, chant in kirtan, give other people the chanting, especially concentrating on that last aspect, giving others an opportunity to chant. And Lord Chaitanya becomes very pleased. Look at this wonderful devotee.
Oh my God. That means you're giving us the hope That Krishna's door
Not
is
I'm
open.
giving.
Prabhupada is giving.
Srila Prabhupada
You're
is giving
quoting.
on Lord Chaitanya's behalf. Okay, I think Sitaram had something and then we'll end there.
I have a question. We end up from. His hand was up first. You? No, you. No, it's okay. There you go. I'll go after you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you for the class. I was thinking down the line that Arjun is a Nitya Siddha, so he could perform this Drida Vrata. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he is the way of Vishnu, so he is the Drida Vrata wala. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has his Nitya Siddha. And so many, these fix-up devotees, they were able to execute devotional service in a very fixed-up way. But then, like, we are from the Nitya Bada, we are the Malacha, the Yavana, coming from, Nicha Jati, low family. Yeah? How could we, become fixed? What guarantee that we have to get, fixed up in devotional life? Could you help me with that?
Yes, we should always remember, and this is the hope, this is what gives us hope. We are eternal parts and parcels of Krishna, eternally pure. The covering is temporary. So if we follow the process for uncovering, it's just like if I give you a classic car that's been in a barn. You see that in the news all the time. Somebody discovered a classic car in a barn that's been there for 50 years and it's completely covered with dust and this and that. But if you take the time diligently to remove that dust and then you polish it and then, whoa, all of a sudden it's a gem that's worth $1 million. So the living entity is like that. We are eternally clean, eternally pure. But because we're in the material atmosphere, subjected to the three modes of nature, we are covered. So covered, I say all the time, that a pure part and parcel of Krishna wakes up every day and makes plans to kill other people. That's how covered we become. Even though you cannot kill anybody, as Krishna says in the beginning of Gita. We become so convinced and so covered, our desire is to kill others, which is something that you can't do. You can kill the body, but the person can never be killed. So the purity of the living entity can never be destroyed. It just becomes covered. And if we take properly to the cleansing process, then gradually we become uncovered. So we're not actually mlechas or yavanas or this or that. We are actually Krishna's Krishnera Nityadas. We're Krishna's eternal servant, completely pure. But there has to be an uncovering process when we are in the material atmosphere. So that's what we're doing. This chanting and hearing and serving and everything we're doing here is gradually removing. And then one day you'll look in the mirror and you stop seeing this black or white or female or male, or you stop seeing that face. You see your actual self. You actually see the self. That's what we're hoping for. Because as long as we're still seeing this reflection, we become absorbed in it. Oh, my face is getting old, another gray hair there. We become absorbed in the reflection of the material body. We're not seeing the actual self. So we're being trained how to appreciate ourselves, first of all. And when we appreciate ourselves, we start to see ourselves as actual spirit soul, then we immediately start seeing others like that. We stop treating them like bodies. I'm not thinking you're a Trinidadian, even though I joke with you all the time about Trini. I stop seeing you as a Trinidadian. I see you as Krishna's eternal servant. And I try to deal with you on that platform. And vice versa. We see each other as pure spirit soul and we try to deal with each other that way. Okay, all right, back to Michael. Last question, and it's already breakfast time.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I wanted to ask you a question because this is something I heard from a devotee. Apparently, apparently some people, even devotee or whatever, they can only progress so far in this life because their material covering and their anarthas, that they can only advance so far in this lifetime that in their next life they can progress farther. I was wondering, what is your opinion on that? I mean, also, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Then we are not understanding the Lord's potency. Yes, externally it may seem like that. And that's the understanding people have in India. Like that one exchange where one devotee had gone to some Indian temple while visiting India, and then they, had an exchange with the pujari. And the pujari said, "Oh, very nice. What do you do?" "Oh, I distribute books." "Oh, yeah, you keep doing that, and in the next life you can take birth as a Brahmin in India." So the devotee went back and told that to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, "You should have told him, you go on ringing bells being a nice pujari in India, and then next life you can take birth in Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement and distribute books." So there's no cap. There's no cap because of Lord Chaitanya's potency, because of the potency. And we're not reading Bhagavatam. Second canto, chapter 4, the prayers of Shukadev Goswami. Kirata hunanja pulinda pulkasha abhira shumbaya vanakasharaya yene chapapaya rapashayashaya shuddyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. All of these contaminated races of people, they can all be purified by a pure devotee of the Lord. Why? Because the pure devotee is taking, that's Prabhu Vishnave Namaha. He's taking potency from Vishnu, from Krishna. So he can purify anybody. Anybody can be purified, regardless of their situation. Now, yes, sometimes we take to the bhakti process and we don't finish it. We're not perfect sadhakas. So Prabhupada said that. There are 3 classes. There's Nitya Siddha, never fall, even though they come to the material world, they've never changed their situation. There's a sadhana siddha, those who practice sadhana bhakti perfectly and then they're elevated back to the pure state. And then there's a kripa siddha. They've taken to the devotional process, they didn't do it properly, they have fall down here, but they've pleased the spiritual master or Krishna, and they say, "All right, in spite of your problems, I'm promoting you back to the perfectional stage." So we should always remember that. We should feel dependent on the mercy of the spiritual master, strive for it, but at the same time, we have to also put in our part. Not that I'm just depending on my Guru's mercy, therefore I can, I never do anything. And no, you try hard, but always dependent on the spiritual master's mercy. Jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.